Coming up, what an excellent day for X-rays. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 53 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate the Exorcist, minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Kynan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with some very loud clacking.
And it ends with Dr. Klein saying, "Is she having spasms again?"
Again? My goodness. But let's go back to the top of this minute, back at the hospital, back in that horrible operating room, where you'll remember our doctors and radiologists and technicians had just finished surrounding Reagan with every spare piece of office furniture they could find. We got the fax machine, we got the overhead projector, we got the weird butcher paper rack. They had dimmed the lights almost as if they were going to show Reagan an educational film, and our previous minute ended with our technician pressing a button, which we now understand was simply a signal for the radiologist to start banging stuff around Reagan's head with hammers. No, I guess this is the sound that this machine makes? Seriously, this is the sound it makes when it's working? What sound does it make when it's broken?
I've heard a lot about medical equipment. Not a lot. That makes me sound like I'm an expert. I've been hearing a little about medical equipment and how they've changed, and how even have you ever had an MRI? I haven't had one.
I don't recall. I think I would remember. Yeah, no, I don't think I have.
You're in this little tunnel thing, right?
Right, right.
And it makes this terrible clacking noises. So I know this is a different machine. These are X-rays of the vascular system. But
right.
But yeah, they're working a lot now. For years, they had been like, oh well, the patient just has to deal with it. They just have to deal with these loud, terrible noises. But now they're realizing that they can get the same results with a quieter, open system that doesn't make you claustrophobic. I think I would claw my way out of the inside of an MRI machine if I had to deal with it. Yeah, but apparently a lot of what these loud noises are the mechanical ways of creating the magnetic fields, and so they are necessary. But yeah, they just haven't been thinking about the user experience, I suppose.
Wow, that's incredible that something that on the outside we see as like so sophisticated, like we're going to take an X-ray of the inside of your skull and then like you actually turn the machine on, and it really does, like I was joking before folks, but it really does sound like the doctors just grabbed a bunch of pots and pans and just like stood around her and just like bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah, we might have some listeners who usually will watch along with us, and I wouldn't be surprised if there are some listeners who are skipping rewatching these parts because they're so disturbing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So just Lester is evoking it very well. It is incredibly loud, incredibly disturbing, and it's not quite even like rhythmic, right? It's not. It's not quite on the bottom of a modern MRI machine. This feels like it's. Whenever we start to relax is when it goes. It goes
Yeah. We're in a hospital and it sounds like the machines are sick.
Oh, God. That's terrible. Yeah.
So like Kynan said, like, if we have listeners who are trying to like, maybe trying to like skip this part, trying to get away from it, fear not, because we will walk you through every horrible bit of it on this show. Oh my God. But yeah, so we get a wide shot of the whole room, and we see that none of the docs, radiologists or nurses are in there with Reagan anymore, as if they're like, oh shit, she's going to blow. But no, they're gone. And then we cut back to a shot of this hand, now out of focus, still clutching that button. And we're now focused on Reagan's face, which is all screwed up in this like grimace of pain. Just when you thought it was going to get a little easier, just when you thought it couldn't possibly get any worse, I swear, I knew the technicians aren't in there, but like it really does sound like they're just like banging shit with hammers. I already said that, but yeah.
And I know it's a little bit like, well, the people have gone away, so we're going to use, it's like, hold on, I'm trying to formulate my metaphor. But it's as if they have evoked some demons of their own, right? Like
yes,
we're out of here, but our own medical cap and howdies are going to be in there knocking things around for you. Don't worry about it.
Right. This is Dr. Howdy.
The Reverend Dr. Cap and Howdy.
Reverend Dr. Cap and Howdy, who has his own line of cereal.
Oh, this is apropos of nothing, but just I guess to get
okay.
away from some of this.
Sure.
Do you play Clue?
I do. Yes.
Yeah, we were. I was watching my friends play Clue while I was too busy the other day. I was over at their house and they were all playing Clue, and there's all these new versions of Clue. There's every 2 years or so they redo it, and so the newest version of Clue that they saw. All the rooms connect to each other, so there's not like hallways between them, and it's very odd looking. And they've gotten rid of the Mr., Mrs., Professor stuff on the card, so it just says plum, green, white, mustard.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't think you can completely delete that from, like, my friends were still saying like Colonel Mustard or Mrs. White, right?
Yeah.
But it reminded me how in Britain, the original Cluedo, Cluedo is what they call it over there. And Mr. Green isn't Mr. Green; he's Reverend Green.
Oh,
yeah. So I think I haven't seen this confirmed by the Hasbro any smoking guns, but I think in America they're like, we can't have a Reverend be a murder suspect. That's terrible.
Sure.
1 out of 6 games end with the Reverend having killed Mr. Body. That's no good.
Right. And then even now, like, it would be not a case of like a Reverend killing somebody, right? Because everybody loves the sinister minister trope. Now.
Oh, I like that term. I haven't with Sinister Minister.
I love it. I love it. Poltergeist 2, guys. What's his name? Julian Beck. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Chef's kiss. The rest of the movie, but
right.
But Julian Beck. But so now I think that'd be fine. Like, nobody would care. But it would maybe be a question of like inclusivity. Like, okay, well, we have a reverend, so we got to have like, a rabbi and this and that.
And then a mom.
Yeah.
Well, they have changed it. Every once in a while. They've added some new characters. So there was a Dr. Orchid for a while.
Okay.
Because I've always wondered why none of them are doctors. And
right.
The game is from the 60s or so. So it was Mrs. White, Mrs. Peacock, and Miss Scarlet. And so why can't one of the misses be a doctor? But,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now you're saying like they've just completely just eradicated all the job titles and stuff.
Yeah, in this version that I saw, right? So just White, Peacock, Scarlet, and they try to mess up these things every once in a while. And they've like I said, tried to add Dr. Peacock. What was it? Dr. Peacock, Mr. Slate Gray, and there's another one that they tried to add. And I think people just always want to go back to those original 6 colors.
Yeah, right. And especially, I mean, like we now have a movie that forever cements those characters.
Oh,
with
I
their
can't
job
believe
titles
I've been asking you, do you play Clue? Because we've talked about the movie Clue like 18 times on this show, which is what we really want to be podcasting about, but we have to stick with our favorite horror movie of all time instead.
Yeah. Well, folks, Kynan already knows this. I was so excited to find this out, but so there is now a Clue Minute, and they are going strong. I believe they're releasing once a week. But yeah, go check them out. I've been following them religiously, you might say. But yeah, they do a really good job of talking about the movie Clue, which I love.
That was what my friend's question. Like, why don't they just do one where the characters are Madeline Kahn and Michael McKean? I'm sure
that would be perfect.
It'd be expensive, probably, because you have to pay for the licensing for Christopher Lloyd and Eileen Brennan or whatever. But that's the one that I think everyone would buy.
Yeah.
Probably buy 2 copies, one to play with and one to not open.
Well, yes, absolutely, right? Oh, I thought you were going to say like they had to buy 3 copies, and then it's like, well, that's how it could have ended,
Well, anyway, sorry to take you away from Reagan McNeil and her problems to talk about Clue instead.
Right, yes.
Which is just,
Let's get back to this horrible sounding radiology machine that sounds like it has radiation sickness.
Right. In our movie, what do we have? We have 3 deaths.
And
in Clue, there are twice as many.
Yes,
there's 7 deaths in Clue, depending on which ending you see.
Yes, but again, that kind of like raises a fair point, right? Like, we're talking about like some movies, right? Bodies, like I said, are a dime a dozen, right? And they could be comedies like Clue. They could also be horror movies, right? Like the Michael Myers movies, the Freddy movies, the Jason movies, right? Like the Chucky movies. When people die in those movies, it's almost a game for us, and we're like, what interesting new way is Jason going to kill like this guy or that person?
How are they going to fake us out? Because we are playing along at home, figuring out like which order they're going to kill people in and how. And yeah, the fun is where they stifle our guesses. Yes.
But for this movie, because we have spent, even though it is, well, I don't know, I like Friedkin doesn't like it being called a horror movie, but even though it is like a scarier movie, we spend so much time getting to know these characters and growing to love these characters, and we got Chris and we got Reagan. And so when they are in danger, when there is the threat of danger or death to them, we get really invested. We're like, no, please, not Reagan, not Chris. And even when, maybe I don't want to spoil it, but even when somebody else dies, we're like, oh, no, like
right.
Not that person that I can't say the name of, no. I think we've already given it away anyway. I don't know. I think
we have, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. But anyway, yeah. So back to this minute. So this is where Reagan can't hold it in anymore. This is where she actually does cry out in pain and fright. But amidst this like cacophony and the confusion of this scene, that voice is so small and it's so quick too. It's like this little squeak and then it's done. And I think this does two things. One, it shows us how loud and invasive and overbearing this machine and this situation is. When you finally cry out for help, it's barely heard, right? It's drowned out. Mm-hmm. Two, it says something about Reagan because now is her time to really let it out. Now is the time when anyone, myself included, would be screaming a scream to match and maybe rise above all of this chaos, right? Like I personally would not care about holding back anymore. My ego, my pride, my concern not to show weakness or fear would be dissolved long before this. And in that moment, I would be screaming like, holy shit, turn this thing off, But Reagan, in the same situation after all of this, she just kind of goes like, and that's it. And it shows that she is still holding back. I don't know why. If I had to guess, I don't think it's pride, but more that she knows that mom is still watching. And she doesn't want to upset her. Even with all of this going on, folks, this is the chaotic climax of this scene. I can see another director like having Reagan open her mouth in a silent scream drowned out by the noise. Like you see that trick in other things, like when, someone dies and it's somebody opens their mouth in a scream, but you don't hear the scream. You just hear like this really soft music or something like that. Right. I can see that happening with this one. Right. But Friedkin has made two choices. He said, no, we're going to hear Reagan's voice over all of the noise. That's one choice. And two, it's not going to be a sustained scream. All she's going to give us is this little whimper. And three, this is new math now, imaginary numbers. That whimper is not going to denote weakness, but strength. Fuck you, doctors. Fuck you, radiologists. Fuck you, technicians. Do your worst. This is all you're going to get out of me. Mom's up there watching, and you're not going to break me. You're not going to break us.
Right. I like that. You include Chris in that. Yeah, they're a unit here because that's what the movie is going to be back and forth on, whether Chris and Reagan are a unit or not.
Yeah.
I think that it's also, I don't know. In a perhaps more evolved medical setting, it might be encouraged for her to scream out and to that's helpful with these therapies, right?
Right.
Like, yeah. Like I went to the chiropractor for the first time because I'm almost 40 now. So I was telling the chiropractor like, oh, this is my first time. And she's like, how old are you? I'm like 38. I'm like, well, yeah, this is the first of many visits for you. I assure you.
Oh boy.
And at first, they're throwing you all over the place.
Oh yeah.
Right? Oh yeah. They're taking it all over. And it's like, well, you have to just sort of accept that you're going to make noises that you're not in control of. And it's actually good for you to let that out,
yes,
while they're working on you. And yeah, I think, in a more evolved place, they might be like, it's okay if you do this is helpful for you to get this out, Reagan. But no, here it's very adversarial, this treatment, right?
Yeah. I wonder if like in the history of medicine, like were they at that time yet where they were telling, like in another hospital in the 1970s, would they be telling Reagan like, hey, like this will be helpful if you let it all out, if you scream, or did they not even know about that yet?
Yeah, I don't think they're thinking about that because some of which is that we see here is like, this is for the sake of the instruments, right? Because if we mess anything up, then this is all for naught. So it's about the instruments and not the patient. It's this, straight, not backward. I don't want to say like, oh, these are barbarians or something, right? It's all for a good purpose at the time. Like they need to make sure she doesn't move. They need to make sure she's obeying, because otherwise they have to go and do all these scans again, right?
Right. Yeah. So this is the we're kind of at the horizon of this new technology, and it's very, very finicky, very fickle, and so like everything has to be just right. Otherwise, they got to start all over. And God knows, like none of us want to see like, oh well, we messed up. It's like her brain is all smudgy on the thing.
Yeah,
we got to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, you talked earlier. We took a break and we're talking about like smoking in the movies, right? Like, what do we do now that we're gonna look back on and feel bad about, which is something I think about all the time. Because now that I've taught, I guess like 15 years worth of young people, and seeing the difference, I'm like, whoa, there are things that I was doing 15 years ago that I think are just wrong now, completely wrong.
Yeah.
But the same thing with medicine, right? Or any therapies. Like, what are the things that we think are, we'll learn in the future that I don't know. Massage is terrible for you. Right. Something that everyone agrees on now is beneficial. Yeah. It's like, oh, I can't believe it. They would go into a darkened room and they would squish their muscles, and then that's led to some terrible outbreak of disease that we can't even fathom right now.
In the 21st century, people were just taking too many deep breaths. Don't they know? Don't they know what that does?
Right. Shallow, thin breaths, please. Yes.
You're wearing out your lungs. Oh my God. But yeah. Okay. So, but speaking of like broken, right? So we got these broken sounding machines, and we got Reagan trying not to be broken here. Kynan, I'm looking at this shot. Do you see that thing pointed at her? Like it's where the tubes go into the machine. It looks like the double barrels of a shotgun pointed at her. You see how it's red? That's not supposed to be, because that's where like her blood is going, right? Like
I hope it's not her blood. Right, yeah, but that's the tube that they put in to draw her blood out, and then they were going to fill her with helium, right?
Yeah, helium or air. Either one sounds bad.
Yeah, I think they're filling up with helium. Yeah, I can't tell from here, but I think that red part is just the machinery. Okay. We did see some orange red thing earlier.
Right. And it does look a little bit too bright and cartoony to be like blood. Like it looks like what other 1970s, 1960s like blood effects would look like.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen The Wild Bunch, the Western. It's like it's like the closest thing to like an American spaghetti Western that we had at that time. So you like the Once Upon a Time in America, or sorry, Once Upon a Time in the West, Leone trilogy. And it was just a Sam Peckinpah movie. And this is one of those movies like you were talking about where it just bodies everywhere. And one of the things that they do to sort of get away with how much blood is everybody is just blowing up, and is that the blood looks more like tomato soup.
Okay. Yeah.
And at first she was like, okay, well, thank God it doesn't look like real blood. But then by the end of it, when the movie's just covered with it, it becomes even more sickly gross. Like it feels like they've started out with this attempt to get around like censorship, or to like, hey, this is more cartoony. But by the end of it, you're just like, oh, this is so much worse than real looking blood by the end of it. But it's
even,
that
even less appetizing. Wow.
Yeah, it's that exact color. And then you don't drink tomato soup for a couple of months after.
Right. So and it turns you off tomato soup. Wow, perfect. Awesome.
Can you believe in the 1970s they were drinking tomato soup?
Oh my God.
After all we know now that
don't they know that's actually blood? That's just blood. That's all it is. Haven't they seen the Wild Bunch?
Yes, I don't believe that is her blood.
Okay, yeah.
There's enough of it all over her.
Yeah, to compare, like we've seen, like that looks like real blood. But this stuff in the machine, it's got to be like paint or something.
I hope so.
Yeah. So yeah, in any case, we then have a hard cut to some sort of backlit screen as X-rays of Reagan's skull move up onto it. Again,
well, I would just say like we don't know what it is at first, right? So we cut there, like, oh, geez, what has Reagan blacked out or something terrible, right? That's my impression of it. And then
you're talking about the white light.
Yeah, with the whole screen just filled with white. We don't see anything for a split second.
You're right. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Because Reagan is like screaming, and then we just cut to white. It was like, oh, geez, like what is this? But then we're sort of relieved that it's just another big clanky loud machine.
And again, just so loud and abrasive.
So loud,
it's like It's like you're not even with patients anymore. You don't have to scare them, but just like,
right. Well, yeah. Again, we don't know where this is, right? Because we get this insert of the X-rays moving up onto the light board,
right?
And then we get a reveal that this is later and in a different room, right?
Right. Yes. But Friedkin is making sure that we get the sound of this machine as well, right? Like this overly loud, like screaming, clunking sound. But even before we see the rest of the room, I think we can tell that we're not like in the operating space anymore. Like I don't know how, except maybe because when the slides of Reagan's skull stop moving, so does the sound, as if this machine is the only thing making noise now.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I agree with you 100%, but again, like we're in this ambiguous space of some kind, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's the purpose of this shot. And cheaper, seeing this little girl's skull everywhere. How fun.
Yeah. Now, okay, to that, Kynan, like about these X-rays, obviously they didn't make poor Linda Blair go through that operation just to get pictures of her brain, right? So we can only assume that this is someone else's skull, correct?
Well, as you say, obviously, I don't think you're fully convinced of that, right?
Yeah. No, I'm not.
I don't know. I don't imagine that they would, but I mean, I could also see Friedkin being like, well, she's already there. She's in this real machine. What's the point? No, but they probably... If it were just the X-rays,
I'm laughing because that's horrible.
Right? If it was just the X-rays, maybe, but they have to add that contrast, right? That helium mix into her brain, so they probably have not really made her drain her. Almost certainly, she's not draining her real blood and then replacing her. Or her. They're not draining their blood; they're draining her cerebral spinal fluid.
Right, her spinal fluid. Yeah.
And then replacing that with the helium mixture. So they're probably almost certainly not doing that. If it was just an X-ray or something, I'm sure they would have been like, right. Well, everybody's here. Let's have a party. All right.
Hey, everybody, we're all going to get X-rayed. It rhymes too.
Yeah. So I imagine these are not Linda Blair's real, but who knows?
Yeah. But I mean, like, you would think that if they were, like, that would be one of the stories. It's like, and this was a real arteriogram.
They'd be real proud of it.
Yeah.
Right.
They would talk about that, right? She injured her back and we drained her brain, right? Like...
That's acting. That's what acting is.
Dedication. You want to be big, kid? You want to be big? You got to pump your head full of helium.
How do you expect to be big with all your original fluids in you?
And then just for the rest of the movie, right? It's like, was that a good job, Billy? It's like, yeah, but don't let it go to your head.
Oh no, Billy.
And then everyone's just laughing, and it's like Linda's like, this is bullshit.
Well, that'd be like the end of The Simpsons. That everyone is at the end of a Simpsons episode, they're all laughing and laughing and laughing. He goes, "Oh, I kept the laughing gas on."
Oh yeah. And there we are. We got our Simpsons reference. Excellent. Okay. So, like. It's got to be like somebody else's records, right? Like they would just grab
brain scans. Yeah, they must be.
So we linger on these shots of Reagan's brain for a little bit, and then we cut to what I think is a really cool shot of the reflection of a new set of X-rays going up on that screen, as seen in this new doctor's glasses. So this is a new doctor. We haven't seen him before, correct?
Oh, right, completely.
Yeah.
We very clearly, it's not Dr. Klein. It's some other person, right?
It's definitely
close up of him.
Yeah, definitely not Dr. Klein. Actually, he has like all the like opposing features, right? Like Dr. Klein is clean shaven. This guy has a mustache. This guy's wearing glasses. Dr. Klein is bald. This guy has hair. It's like it's all it's like almost polar opposite, right?
Right.
And this is apparently Dr. Tanny, according to the X-ray, not the X-ray. I mean the Amazon X-ray. Jesus.
Right.
Doctor, what does the X-ray say? Well, wait. I'm going to do his voice. It's like, well, it appears. Oh, no. What is it? It's like, no vascular displacement? Yes. Well, it appears my real name is Robert Simmons. I was born December 1st, 1926. I've played in such films as The Exorcist and Catch Me If You Can. Wow, how about that? But Kynan, I was looking. It's very hard to find anything else on this guy.
Well, yeah, this appears to be his first film, which is nice again. So he had done a lot of work in theater and done some really, really important work in New York. That's one of the things that I, as a film historian, or at least a film history teacher, like there's huge gaps in our understanding of who important people are because they're working in theater, right? They haven't quite, there's an internet Broadway database, and there's an internet movie database, and they haven't quite like just melded those together. You know, they're different companies. One's owned by Amazon, and I think one is a private company. So so he's a very important person in the theater. And then after this, had a bunch of small roles like this. I think never quite matching his import when he's the head of companies in the New York stage. One other thing I wanted to mention was that he is the stepfather of Amy Irving, which makes him for a time the stepfather-in-law of Steven Spielberg. So yeah, that's one of the things I like about movie history is finding these connections. Some of my colleagues, or just other professors you meet everywhere, other historians are like, oh, that's a blind spot for me about finding out who's related, and they kind of aren't quite. They not quite dismissive, but I think they're missing a big part of like, oh, this person is having dinner with this other person all the time, right? I mean, so that must affect them. So even if they're not in movies together, how does that not have some kind of impact on their work, right?
Right. Just spending time together, like, is gonna they're both gonna rub off on each other a little bit.
Yeah, and so like some people don't keep track of like who's married to who, and then to be fair, like that changes very often in Hollywood relationships. And Spielberg and Amy Irving get divorced, so Robert Simons, this character, Dr. Tanny, would be Steven Spielberg's ex-father-in-law, right? Exactly.
Ex-stepfather-in-law.
Ex-stepfather-in-law, exactly.
Wow.
But they would have been in each other's lives for quite some time. And then I was Lisa Marie Presley, the musician and music producer, just passed away a couple weeks ago, and I was thinking about how she was the connection between the Jackson family, like Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson,
oh my god,
and the Coppolas, because she was married.
Oh my god,
she was married to Michael Jackson and then married to Nicolas Cage, or vice versa. Sorry, I can't remember which one came first, but she was married to Nicolas Cage and she was married to Michael Jackson. So, that's the link between the Coppolas and the Jacksons. I don't think that they spend a lot of time to each other, like Janet Jackson and Francis Ford Coppola. That's far enough along. They probably didn't, sit down with each other and talk shop. But, they were probably at some family functions at some point, or, were quite aware that, my nephew Nick just married Lisa Marie, Elvis Presley's daughter. Like, this is they're aware of these things, at least.
Gosh. This is a tangled web worthy of Chris McNeil and Howard McNeil.
Wait, now you have a celebrity in your family, don't you?
I do.
Yes. Do you want to share that with the listeners?
Sure. Firstly, I do want to say, like, Kynan, like, I asked you earlier today, I was like, hey, I don't have anything on this Robert Simmons guy, do you? And you're like, no, I couldn't find anything. And then you just lay out all of this stuff that you just laid out. Like, so
it's
thank
just
you.
One thing. Yeah, he's Steven Spielberg's ex-stepfather-in-law.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. The celebrity in my family, whom I have never met, and I think my mom only met like once at a funeral, I think. But like I grew up listening to his music because mom would play it all the time. That is Peter Cetera. Right. Peter Cetera of Chicago fame, and my mom and my relatives on that side love to tell me that I look a lot like him. And I guess like if you look at some of his younger pictures, you can kind of see it, right? Like
you do.
If you switch the hair around a little bit, yeah. So there's that.
I never put that together before, but yes, of course.
Yeah. So he is my mom's cousin, but I don't know. I still to this day haven't figured out what that makes him to me, because he's not an uncle then.
Well, I've said this before, like in Hawaii where I'm from, everyone's your uncle.
Yeah,
everyone's your auntie, so it's much simpler.
It's Uncle Peter, yeah.
Right.
I think he's like a type of cousin, like twice removed or once removed, or he's like first cousin once removed, or I don't know, like, because
it's your mother's cousin.
Yes. So second cousin?
And then the once removed part is the generation, I think, right?
Okay, one of them's the generation and one of them's the like the distance. Like cousin's cousin is, maybe that's the once removed. Oh my God.
Now I have been on this Wikipedia page several times trying to figure out this once removed nonsense that you Caucasians do.
And folks, I'm sure we have listeners out there who have also learned this and forgotten it, just like me. Like I remember learning this and being like, oh yeah, like that makes sense, and then just completely forgetting it again.
All right, let me think. So I'm at this little chart. You are the person, your parent. Okay, so then your parent's cousin. Wait, what? First cousin once removed.
Okay, we're gonna.
So this is your mom and Peter Cetera have the same grandparents.
I'm doing Google while you're doing Wikipedia. We're gonna see who comes out
This
first.
has this big complicated chart. So
okay. Okay, Google answered it.
Brother. Okay. So then your parents, your uncles and aunts, children. That's not what it is. It's your parents,
Yeah.
your grandparents, no. No.
I have the answer. I'm just going to wait for you to.
I can't even find it. Your parents' first cousin is your first cousin once removed, I believe.
Correct.
That's
yes.
good. Okay,
yes.
good.
Yeah, it says your mother's cousin is called your first cousin once removed.
Okay.
So that answers that. I don't know why. I know the answer now, but I'm never it's
like what is that achieved? Yeah.
What makes him so he's okay, first cousin, so he is removed from me by a generation,
I believe.
Okay.
Right.
But
it's confused. So your second cousin's father, who would be Peter Cetera, I don't know if he has children, but that would be your second cousin's father is your first cousin somehow.
What?
First removed. That's what it is. Your mother's cousin is your first cousin once removed, and their children would be your second cousins.
Oh. Second cousin once removed. So
no, that would be your second cousin. Their Uncle Peter's children would be your second cousins.
Okay, but they're not removed from me.
They're not removed. They're the same. They're the same age as you.
Okay, you know what? Can we just go back to the way that I knew it from like my childhood days, where we had there was like an evil twin bad guy or something like that on a cartoon, and he's like, oh, this is my second cousin, but he was so bad we had to remove him from the family. Then he came back and we had to remove him again. That's how I remember it. Let's just go with that.
Now I'm looking at the Coppola family tree, and they have the Coppola family tree sideways from what I would say. This is not how I would lay this out, but Nicholas. Okay, so yes, Nicholas Kim Coppola, who is known as Nicolas Cage, is Francis Ford Coppola's nephew. Oh, wait, this is the wrong family. I'm supposed to look at the Spielberg family tree. I'm in the wrong. That's why I can't find Robert Simon's, because I was in the wrong family tree.
Literally barking up the wrong tree.
Oh, jeepers. Okay, so then who is all right? Okay, yeah, there is no family tree for the Spielbergs. They're not notable enough, I guess.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know, but that's what happens to when you start. I mean, that's the kind of thing, right? It seems so foreign when you don't know people in the entertainment business that you would have, everyone's sort of intermarrying and knowing each other and mixing each other. But, that just makes sense when, people find each other through work. Those are the places you get married, right? Through church, work, and I don't know what else. That's about it, I guess.
Yeah, right.
And now dating apps, I suppose. But if you live in a company town like New York or Los Angeles, right? Company town is in Broadway or the movies, or in Chicago for comedy, like stage comedy, then you're just going to meet the same people, even if you're on dating apps.
You're bound to mix and match.
In your field.
Yeah. You might even stay away from dating apps, because it's like everyone's going to see that you're on a dating app.
Oh, yes.
It's like, oh my God, John's on a dating app. Wait, I'm on a dating app. John can see me. Oh no. And then you just text each other. It's like, hey, you want to go? Like, we're both on this dating app.
No, I don't think that would happen. Or maybe it has.
There we go. We're covering all the bases.
Yeah, when I was on dating for a very brief time, because I met my boyfriend as a rebound, and then we just stayed together for 10 years because it's like, oh, that's a lot easier. But I would see friends of mine, and I would just block them. Completely. I was like, before they see me, I need to get out of here and block them. Yeah. So sometimes I'd be on the dating app, not even like looking for it. I'd just be like looking for friends of mine to block.
Ew, this person wants a relationship.
Ew, and I know them.
Oh, okay. Wow, folks, we went on that journey. Okay,
so I do love this shot of Robert Simon with the glasses, right? Yes. You're talking about. It's really cool. So we were talking in the previous scene, how we have that shot of Chris behind this glass, but we keep in some of these reflections of these tubes and everything, and it sort of distances us from Chris while also like putting us in her shoes. This is the first shot of Dr. Tanny. It's a big close-up, right? We don't get much closer than this to any character. We've never met him, but having these glasses and this rack of X-rays going up and down in front of them really distances us from him, right?
Yes.
So we're like observing him, observing these, and so we're not like necessarily imprinting on him the way that we would with other new characters and being like, this is us now.
It's almost as if he himself is also a machine,
right?
And his eyes are, because like that's the thing that we kind of like latch on to, like when we see these characters, is their eyes, folks,
right?
And we can't see his eyes. It's almost like his eyes are lenses or cameras themselves, right? As he's examining this girl. You made that joke before about like how Dr. Klein is trying to be, like a human to Reagan. And it's like, oh, see, little girl, this is how the temperature works and everything like that. And you made this joke as like, he's not being like, give me your data, little girl, but we could argue that, I mean, he's not talking to Reagan right now, but like he's coming off, at least in this moment, as like a little bit more technical.
Right. Yeah, that's another way. You were talking about every way that they're different, right? Dr. Klein has been trying to be open and failing at that, right? He's been trying. We've seen that. I was going to say smarmy, which isn't quite the word, but something along those lines, right? He's trying to ingratiate himself into Chris's inner circle. He's trying to be open, and Dr. Tanny is closed. He's very much, I observe, I watch.
Yes. I attack, I protect.
Right, exactly. He attack, he protect, but most of all, he project.
Yeah. He look at the spinal fluid in the neck. Also, before we move on, I didn't tell our listeners this, folks, and you might have seen me post it on the socials. But I was out on my run the other day, and I like happened across. It was a new route that I was taking, and I happened across this like random bookstore, and I just kind of like dipped in, and I saw that they had a copy of The Exorcist, and I asked to like take a look at it, and I opened the cover, and it was a signed copy. It was signed by William Peter Blatty, and I asked them how much it was, and they told me, and I was like, "All right, I will, I will finish my run, and I will come back with my wallet because I didn't have my wallet on me. I'll go back to my car, grab my wallet, and I had like resolved that like, if it wasn't there by the time I got back, then that's the universe saying like, you don't need to spend money on this thing." But I don't think I ever ran as fast as I did to get back to my car, to get my wallet and then run back to the store.
Did you end up asking them like how long they had it? Or I mean, like, is it like, are we the only ones who would, care? And we're like, oh my God, we need this. Like, you were scared someone was going to see it in the span of an hour and buy it.
In my mind, I thought that the rest of the city of Los Angeles was like just a swarm of rabid, feral, exorcist-loving, book-buying creatures, and they were just going to be like clamoring to get this thing, and I only had like 5 seconds to get to my car, and it's like, oh no, it's like it's going to be gone forever. Oh no. But no, that was not the case. It's probably been there for like weeks, and nobody cared. But for me, I was like, oh, I have to get this, right? So I ran back, I got it, and I brought it home, and I was looking at my copy because I also have I already had a copy. Like this is how obsessed I am, Kynan. I already had a copy, like a first edition, and now I'm buying another first edition because it's signed, and I spent
I totally understand. I totally understand that. Yeah.
But I was looking to see like how is it different, and the size is slightly different, and the print is a little bit different, the paper is a little bit different, and the little back flap of the jacket has this little acknowledgement, and this is where this is what I've been trying to get at, folks. William Peter Blatty thanks a certain doctor, and that doctor's name is Dr. Tanny.
Okay.
And he thanks him for, I guess, help in like research and medical advice and things like that. And so now I'm wondering, and I'll have to go back and read this part of the book again. Is Dr. Tanny mentioned in the book? Or is it like, because the only doctor I remember in the book is Dr. Klein.
Right.
And I think the other doctors go unnamed, but he's thanking an actual real life Dr. Tanny in, like this little back part of the book, this little blurb. And so certainly the name of this character in the movie came from that. It must be.
Yeah, in the screenplay, it says Dr. Tanny as well. So then we're going to hear it in the dialogue, but yeah, so that's interesting. So somewhere Blatty made the decision, right, to name him that.
Yeah. I'm looking. I'm trying to see if I can maybe find if I took a picture of it. I don't have the book with me. Holy shit. Actually, I'm at school right now. I do have the book with me.
You always have the book.
I'll be right back, and I'm going to read the exact thing.
Okay.
Hang on. Okay, and we're back. I don't know if you guys can hear this, folks. We are actually in luck because I'm not recording from home today in my home studio. I'm recording at the studio at school, and so like right down the hall is my office, and that's where this book is. It's on my little display, so I was able to go and grab it. And let's see. Okay, so I'm looking at so it's in the back. It's the acknowledgments, and it says, "My special thanks to Herbert Tanny, M.D., Mr. Joseph E. Jeffs, librarian, Georgetown University, Mr. William Bloom, and Mrs. Ann Harris, my editor at Harper & Row, for their invaluable assistance and generosity in the preparation of this work." Right. I would also like to thank Reverend Thomas V. Birmingham. Right. We got Tom there. S.J. Oh, he didn't forget to put the S.J. there. Vice Provincial for the formation of New York Province of the Society of Jesus, for suggesting the subject matter of this novel. I remember that. Yeah, he said it was Tom who suggested it. Mr. Mark Jaffe of Bantam Books and for his singular and lonely faith in its eventual worth. To these mentions, I would like to add Dr. Bernard M. Wagner of Georgetown University for teaching me to write, and the Jesuits for teaching me to think. Ooh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I also happened to pull up a scene with the Dr. Tanny character in the book while you were looking for that, and his name in the book is Dr. David.
Wait, oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you meant, okay, so he isn't mentioned in the book.
In the book, well, this is the, what I'm looking at here is the consulting neurologist, et cetera, the scene that we're looking at. Mm-hmm. He is not named, and then when you look a little further on, there's actually some sort of weird play. This is the next scene where Dr. Tanny goes with Dr. Klein to Chris's house. So I'm cutting forward a little bit, but Chris says, "Oh, come and take a look at what my daughter's doing." And Dr. Klein says, "This is doctor." And then he's cut off. And so we don't know the doctor's name until after whatever happens to Reagan upstairs in the bedroom there. And then later on, when they've calmed down, the doctor does have a name, and it is Dr. David.
Interesting.
"You're doing just fine," Klein assured her. "It's a frightening ordeal. By the way, this is Dr. David."
Okay. Yeah. I wonder if Dr. Tanny is not in there at all, or if he's just been moved to some other, character. But it sounds like his character has been changed into Dr. David.
That's what it seems like. Or no, the other way around, where Dr. David from the book is turned into Dr. Tanny in the movie.
Right. Yes. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Finding all sorts of things here today.
Books can take you anywhere.
Yes. Oh, and now I've forgotten all the Reading Rainbow stuff. Okay.
I never saw Reading Rainbow as a kid. I thought it was too boring.
What?
After Sesame Street, I would just change the channel to something else. I wouldn't watch Reading Rainbow.
Oh, the song is playing in my head right now, but I can't say a word of it because I don't want to get sued.
I do remember watching the theme song a lot, and then they would start talking about books that I hadn't read, and I turned it off. And I did read a lot as a kid, so I was a voracious reader, and I read very early. But I don't know, I just never got that. Why are you telling me about, like, is it's not like a book club where they tell you ahead of time, hey, ask to go to the library and get this book and we'll talk about it. It just, here's some book. And I'm like, well, I'd rather
Kynan,
be reading that book than watching you talk about
the subject matter of the book is like the theme of the show, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. But not a book I had read.
Oh.
I never caught a time when they were talking about a book that I had read.
Oh, but you would also get the benefit of seeing LeVar Burton go to the Old West, and
Nope, I shut it off before that happened. I'd watch the theme song. He has in a book, it's reading rainbow. But then
no, we're gonna get sued.
Yeah, I'd be done with that by then.
Wow. Okay.
And now that I'm thinking about it, I liked Next Generation Star Trek a lot. So I liked Geordi LaForge and I liked LeVar Burton. I liked everything about it except what the show's about.
He was in there. He just had a thing over his eyes.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, Geordi LaForge's wonderful.
Yeah. So what this doc actually says, so he's looking at the X-rays, right? And he says there's nothing there, no vascular displacement at all. And he asks Dr. Klein if he wants him to run another series. And I like how casual they are about it. Like that wasn't very scary. That wasn't as scary as we thought. You want to do that all again? We did really good. I think we can do it all again, right? And all of us are just like clenching and be like, no,
please,
like we don't want that. Yeah. But no. So Klein says, I don't think so. But he still wants this doc to look at Reagan again.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, in the script, we were talking about this in my screenwriting class this week. There's a lot of what are called parentheticals. We haven't talked about that in the show before, I think. Like in a screenplay, sometimes you will put under the character's name, you'll put a little phrase or an adjective in the parenthetical or an adverb that's telling the actor how to read it, or really telling the reader how to, if it's something like the most useful one is sarcastic or something like that.
Right.
Right. Because it could be like, you're the best. And then, what it really should be is you're the best,
Right.
And it's hard. You can't quite convey that with just the text itself. So there's a lot of that in the scene. So Klein is told to frown while he's studying the X-ray.
Okay.
And then later on, the receptionist is said to be urgent here. And it's very interesting how a lot of that is stripped away because, as you say, in the performances here, Martin Heyman and Friedkin have decided to not quite be so emotionally invested or not really make a scene out of it. Like the point of the scene is how they're trying to, they're confused, obviously, but they're not like, well, this has never happened before, where we've never seen bad results here. They're professionals. And that's where Friedkin and the actors have taken this, as opposed to the urgency that Blatty is putting in here.
Yeah, it does seem like Blatty tends to lean towards the more kind of like pathos side of things, where Friedkin is a little bit more technical, a little bit more like, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say he's colder. This still is a very emotional movie, but, here we have, it says, Tanny shaking his head, removes his eyeglasses and tucks them into his breast pocket of the jacket. There's just nothing there, no vascular distortion at all. Whereas, this is sort of thrown away a little bit, right?
Yeah. He doesn't remove his glasses. Like he keeps those on so that we can see that he's a robot.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
We were talking about in class about these parentheticals and how they're often very useful for the read. So you can kind of get a feeling of what's going on. But then actors, when they go to perform them, usually cut them out or cover them or scratch them out. So that when I was learning how to act in high school, I would read that Jodie Foster would cross out all the parentheticals for her character, no matter what. And I was telling that to my screenwriting students. They're like, "No, you need those. How could you? How could you, Jodie Foster? Right? I need to give you that direction." But she has her own process. She doesn't want someone to tell her how to do them. And what if that sarcastic line, "You're the best"? What if it's actually very interesting when she says it, straight?
Yeah.
All sorts of different flavors you can get there, right?
And then also like it's up to us ultimately to interpret how she said it, right? So she could be saying it sincerely, and we could look at it and look at the the whole situation and be like, wow, it sounds sincere, but it must be sarcastic or whatever.
All sorts of stuff that they're possible, because the actor's job isn't to, especially in film, where in theater, roughly theater actors don't write, and I'm simplifying for people, but for theater actors, roughly the rehearsal process is you trying to figure out one general performance. Again, I'm simplifying, because things do vary from night to night, but not vary from night to night so much that it changes what the play is about.
Right.
That's the idea. But in the film, you're trying to you have 3 or 4 takes of something, and that is your rehearsal period. And so you're trying to take, oftentimes, depending on the actor, big swings back and forth, or some actors are trying to, they have the one choice they're trying to perfect, right? But some actors like to try, okay, I'm going to do one, and then the next one's going to be the exact opposite way to interpret that.
Yeah. I'm still thinking back on like what you were saying, like your students recoiling in horror when they learn that Jodie Foster is crossing out all the parentheticals.
Right,
it's
shocked.
But they also recognize that Jodie Foster is an amazing actor, though. Like and like they maybe putting 2 and 2 together is like, oh well, like that's the process that she uses to get her to that place.
Right. I don't think that they quite put that together. Yeah, right. That, your work on the page is very important, but then at some point it becomes somebody else's job to take it, and of course there's writers typically have been excluded from the process of filmmaking. The Exorcist is very different because the writer of the screenplay is the writer of the source material and the producer of the film.
Yes.
Right. So this is a little bit different, but yeah, historically writers have been pushed away from the set and they've been not welcome on set. And that is partially because of the disrespect that Hollywood has for writers, but also partially because of a history of writers not understanding the process and feeling like they should be able to direct and pipe in and or see like the first take of an actor and then throw a fit, not realizing that the actor has 3 or 4 other ways that they're going to do it.
Right. It is the director's job to translate a written work to the screen, right? Like no matter how good something is, on the page, it like making it like word for word exactly as it is, like, and putting that up on the screen, it might not jump out at you as much. I'm thinking specifically now of I am listening to Room 237, the Shining Minute, and apparently, like we all know, like that Stephen King famously hated Kubrick's adaptation, and he thought that Kubrick strayed too far from the book. But actually, according to this podcast, Kubrick had a printed out copy of the manuscript of the book. He was given it before the book was published, and he went through that thing, and one historian actually has it. He has the copy that Kubrick wrote all over, just like highlighting things and circling things and saying, okay, this is good. When does this come up again? Oh, how can we blow this up and make this really, really big on the screen, and like all of these little notes on the side. And there is one part where you can kind of tell that Kubrick got annoyed because Stephen King just kept on talking about the boiler down in the basement, right? And, he's talking about how Jack has to, dump the boiler and the boiler this and the boiler that. And you can see the notes getting like, a little bit sharper and sharper as Kubrick is going. And then finally, like, there's like, it's like 3 pages of this boiler stuff. And the last page, maybe even more, but the last page, Kubrick has just like slashed out all of this stuff about the boiler. And just on the sides, he wrote, "Fuck the boiler."
I don't know if I remember the boiler in the movie. Is there?
I don't think it's in there in the movie.
There's a lot of tasks that Jack has to do. I don't remember the boiler at all.
Yeah. But that's like in the book. That's like the big thing. It's like what is it? What do you call it? Not Schrödinger's.
No.
What's the gun?
Oh, that is Chekhov's gun.
Chekhov's gun. Not I'm mixing Chekhov and Schrödinger.
Cat and
Chekhov's gun. Wow! Don't let Schrödinger's cat get a hold of Chekhov's gun. He'll kill you and not kill you at the same time. But no, like the boiler in the story is like Chekhov's gun, where it's like, watch out for the boiler. If you don't dump the boiler, the house is gonna blow up.
Right.
Yeah, and then it blows up.
Which doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in the Kubrick movie.
No, it doesn't happen in the Kubrick movie. But yeah, and I think rightly so. I think Kubrick's version is a very, very good version. And Stephen King, you wrote a really, really good book, and Kubrick made a really, really good movie. So stop fighting.
You're both geniuses.
You both did a great job.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I don't think Kubrick's fighting Stephen. Right. Stephen's fighting Kubrick.
It's interesting to hear that Kubrick is taking the galleys copy of the book and making all those notations, like treating it like the capital L literature that he had adapted, like Lolita, Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita, and making all those notes. So he at least was trying to treat it respectfully by going through every single line and seeing what was useful or not.
Yeah. And so like, speaking to that, we have this team, this director and this writer here on this movie, right? And for the most part, it seems like they're working pretty well together. We're gonna come to some forks in the road a little bit later. But I don't think we've had any disagreements yet.
Not yet that I'm aware of, and some of them are about in the edit once things are already filmed.
Right.
Like what should we keep in? Despite the studio's insistence to cut things down, like what should we be cutting? Which is, a reasonable debate to be having about because they make major changes.
Right. We have in this scene, in this version you've never seen before. We have had some things being taken out in the theatrical cut already. Right. That first hospital visit and all that. Yeah. So Dr. Tanny asks Klein if they want to do this whole process again. Klein says no, I don't think so, but he still wants the doc to look at Reagan again. And we then cut to another nurse. And this, folks, is Eleanor Blair. This is Linda Blair's real mother, which is weirder to wrap my head around than I thought it would be. I guess because Ellen Burstyn does such a good job. I know we keep going back and saying that, and some folks might be tired of hearing it by now, especially like I'm just realizing, Kynan, in my notes, I have when Eleanor Blair shows up for the first and only time in this movie, I have talk about how great Ellen Burstyn is. So Mrs. Blair, we apologize.
So that's her, and she has her kind of Missouri accent, it sounds like to me, right? So that's where Linda Blair is from.
Yeah, that is that. But yeah, I tried to find stuff on Eleanor Blair, and it looks like this is her one and only acting role. But she did help out in the makeup department on another movie that Linda did called Up Your Alley. I assume she did Linda's makeup. I was also trying to see if I could find like any anecdotal stuff about like the mother and daughter duo we got here, like maybe some stories about their relationship, but like the one that keeps popping up is the one we sort of already talked about, where she and Linda showed up at Friedkin's office, just sort of by chance, and that's like the meeting that got Linda the role. I wish I could find more stuff about like her presence on the set, like whether she was there all the time, what she thought of all the stuff that Linda, had to go through. Like you would think that there would be a lot of that, right? Like I thought there would have to be, there would be tons of opportunities. Photoplay really dropped the ball here. Where's the story about, what mom thinks about her daughter cursing, or arguments with Friedkin or like the bed injury, which we're going to see like soon. Like I also thought like maybe there would be stories of her being like a stage mom, or I guess a set mom, like sort of engineering Linda's career first as a child model, then as an actor. But like now, I couldn't find anything. Kynan, like, did you have any luck?
It feels again like we keep trying to find this drama with Linda Blair, and insist that she's been exploited. The bed injury is one thing, which we'll talk about, but like we keep wanting to find like, oh, afterwards, like this push to stay in the limelight and what she would do, and she'd be in these extra sequels because she needed it and she was addicted to fame or any of that, and it's not there. It just really isn't there. And Linda Blair has been in the public eye, and she's been, now it's been 50 years, and we do have some, child actors who were even 50 or 60 years afterwards talking about how they were treated and making these changes. And so Linda Blair still has time to do that, but so far none of that has come out, and she's been very, very positive about her experiences on The Exorcist.
Right. She's actually been going, like, she's been making pains to go like the opposite direction and saying like, I was taken care of. I was made sure that, like everything was above board. And
right. So this injury is different. And that's what we'll talk about in I think 2 minutes from now, or 1 minute from now.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, it seems like she doesn't have any issues with her parents. That this relationship where she was a child model was fun for her. And, again, that's not the case for a lot of actors. So I understand why we're trying to look for that. There was just, do you know that Romeo and Juliet from 1968, the Zeffirelli version, the Italian one?
Oh, yes, with
Olivia Hussey.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I forget the guy. Sorry, guy.
Yeah, well, sorry, guy.
But Olivia Hussey became the bigger star after that.
Right.
And anyways, so they just came out last month and said that they want the movie to be pulled because they, as children, were coerced into these nude scenes. And that's from almost 60 years later. And I think if they had come out, with that story maybe 2-3 years ago before the Me Too movement had come out, like you'd see a lot more backlash of like, why are you waiting now? This is just for money, et cetera. Because we've had those stories come up like, why are you telling this now? And I think people are like, well, that's actually now very interesting, right?
Yes.
You are that old, and yes, this performance made your career, but you felt bad about it the whole time. And now Zeffirelli is dead, so maybe there's some more distance there, right? And like, what is that? Because they were both underage and had signed what they thought were contracts saying there would be no nudity, that they would be nude on set, in order to get implied nudity in the movie, but instead they got nudity, his buttocks and her breasts, right?
Right.
As underage actors. So again, that would not happen today.
Right.
So, it's completely fair game, I think, to be like, well, you actors are in the middle of still dealing with it, in your in your 70s, right?
Yes.
You're still thinking about this, and there's a lot more sympathy towards them than there would have been just a few years ago.
Right. We tend to forget. It's like, oh, what? Like, that's such an old movie. I saw it like back when, right? Like
they show it in high schools.
Yeah, they show it in high school. It's like, and it's for us, that experience is just the watching of that movie, and then we're done with it.
Right.
But yeah, for those actors, for those kids, that's going to follow them for the rest of their life. That's in their head. Like, oh yeah, I was in that movie and they made me be naked for it.
Right.
They tricked me, essentially.
Yeah, that's what they're alleging. So they're suing the distributors of the film, and they want it to be taken down, which again, that's
like the whole movie or just a scene?
Yeah. I mean, that's what they're arguing for now. And maybe that's a negotiating tactic, right? To like, get that scene edited or something, right? But that's what they're asking for right now. And then, we're like, well, I saw that in high school. This is one of the formative movies in my life. This is how it's the definitive version of Romeo and Juliet for me. Right. But, these are
people,
they're traumatic moments. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So like, this is a fond memory I have of this movie, but this is them feeling traumatized.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the complicated kind of things that we're living with because, deleting culture is, if you just say, are you in favor of deleting culture? Right. Which of course not. Right. But then we have these real people,
Precisely.
But anyways, for Linda Blair, we don't have a lot of that at all. She's been very warm. She's been, not only, appreciative of the fans and saying like, you've made my career and I love talking to you, but also appreciative of Friedkin and Blatty and everybody. And she doesn't talk about her parents a lot, but if there were some drama, there'd be people to check on that.
Right.
The one thing I have, when you Google Eleanor Blair, née Leitch, Leitch, or Leach, probably.
Oh, okay.
You get to genie.com, like genealogy.com, but genie.com.
Oh,
birth date, estimated between 1894 and 1954. So thanks, genie.com.
Okay. Wow, yeah.
So sometime.
So I think there's another story there. Like,
right. Estimated a 60-year gap. She was either born in 1894 or 5 years before Linda Blair was born. And so somewhere in there, Linda Blair was born.
Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. But yeah, so I mean, like, hey, it is one of those things where, like, yeah, these are public people, right? I'm talking about Linda Blair and her family and everything like that, right? Like, and we have, I get like maybe like a one-sided relationship with their characters on the screen and everything like that, right? And but we also have to remember that like these are people, right? Like just like Olivia Hussey, just like
the other guy,
the other guy.
Sorry, I will look it up while we're talking about him.
Yeah,
but the guy who played Romeo in Romeo,
right, just like Romeo. Could have just said Romeo. Oh well. But yeah, like we grow up with these, with these very much public figures, right? And they are, and we have sort of like I guess like a one-sided relationship with them or with their characters, right? We follow them on social media. We follow them, throughout, like, whatever the paparazzi lets us see and all that stuff. And we, I don't know, I guess we feel like sort of entitled to, I don't even know what, but, we must not forget that, they are also people too. And, and they are suffering for their art, but we also must remember that these are people who, deserve respect.
Yeah. So in the in the aim of being respectful, I looked up the man who played Romeo. His name is Leonard Whiting. Leonard Whiting. There we go. Leonard Whiting. You did a great job. Wonderful job. Yes. He is very good, but Olivia Hussey is. Yeah, Olivia Hussey is Olivia Hussey. She's quite something else in that movie. Yeah. Yes. Kynan, so back to Eleanor Blair, who is playing a nurse in this scene. What do we think of this this very, very brief performance here? Again, like in the screenplay, it says this would be a receptionist voiced, and it will be urgent. And so when we get to the movie, we're like, well, let's find a spot for Eleanor, I guess, right? And we're going to make her a nurse, and we're going to delete that parenthetical, right? And she comes in, and it's not her that's urgent; it's the call from Chris that's urgent, right? Right. Yeah. So she's like, well, this is you've taken a call from mothers before, right, that are urgent, and it doesn't mean that I need to literally, drop everything and scream at the top of my lungs that
Dr. Klein, it's urgent.
A mother's on the line, right? This has never happened to us before. Your test results came up negative. This has never happened before, right? This
People are calling the hospital. They want to know things.
Exactly.
What do we do?
That is my complaint about a very popular show. So it's just not for me. And I'll just, if this is the kind of show that you like, that's great. I love the original Law and Order.
Okay.
I love it to death. I dislike Law and Order Special Victims Unit, which is by far more popular now. That's the popular because every episode they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe the case." The case overwhelms them emotionally. I like the original Law and Order that they are very deadpan. Like, well, we've seen, we have 100 murders to deal with in our office every year, right? And we're just like, this is how this is. And down at Special Victims Unit, they cannot deal with it, right? Like every single time, it breaks their heart. So yeah, this for the hospital. We're like, doctor, this little girl, she has a pain in her head. Oh, we can't deal with it, right? Like obviously, it is a tragedy for any family that's going through this, right?
Of course.
But for these professionals, when they're not, on stage, as it were. It's just like, this is what's happening. Chris McNeil's on the phone. She says it's urgent.
Yes,
throw it away.
Yeah.
But I do like
Special Victims Unit. Like if you're being like overwhelmed by every single patient that comes your way, it's like maybe this isn't the job for you. I don't know.
You couldn't do it, right? You couldn't do it. That's why a lot of people are thrown off by like we talked about. Morticians or coroners eating, right? But they have to eat sometime, right? Or when you hang around cops, you start to hear them making really distasteful jokes. But that's how they have to deal with it. Obviously, you wouldn't want them to say any of those jokes in public. That would be not cool. And if they do that, then they should be reprimanded for that because that impacts the ability of the police force to do their job. But when they're off on their own, and they've seen terrible things of murders and grisly, disgusting things happening, they end up developing this sense of humor to protect themselves.
Right. Now and then a laugh to keep from crying.
Oh
right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a reason they call it bedside manner, right? Like that's the whole like idea of it is that like this is the face that you put on for the public, like as you're helping them, right? Like because having that like kind of like maybe no nonsense gruff like down to business exterior, right? Like treating a patient like a specimen or something like that. Like a problem, right? Is not going to look good, and it's going to be bad, all around for everybody.
And
so
there's worse health outcomes because of that. I think the research has been pretty clear about that.
Precisely.
And they cause a mistrust of the medical community and all of that,
right? And then less people go to doctors, and then more problems arise, and it's just So the invention of bedside manner, right? Like good stuff. Yeah. But speaking of that, so. We have this lady, Eleanor Blair, who is not a real nurse. And so I found myself trying to compare her performance to the other nurses whom I know are real nurses. And I guess that's not fair because this is such a brief encounter with Eleanor Blair here. We even cut away before she's done speaking. But how crazy is that? I was looking like, well, how would the real nurse, interrupt two doctors, right? Like how would a real nurse open the door? And then I look again and she doesn't even open the door. Like the door is open. She just sort of like leans into frame. And I guess I'm being like really unfair. Like we've seen so much more of the other nurses and we know that they're real nurses. And, there's like so little of Eleanor that I'm judging every single thing. Like, well, that's not how the other nurse would have done it,
Yeah, but they do give her a coffee filter for her head.
They do, right? She's got the coffee filter, and she has a little like name tag thing. And I tried to zoom in, I couldn't see what it said. I think I would be able to recognize even if it was blurry if it said Blair, but I don't think that's what it says. And I'm wondering, did she take one of the other nurses name tags and she's wearing it now? Is that name the other nurse's name? Is that what's going on here?
We keep trying to invent drama backstage at The Exorcist.
But okay, I joke about comparing this actor with a speaking role to the other nurses, specifically our favorite nurse, right? The one who if she could speak would fix all of Reagan's problems, and then it would be a much shorter movie maybe.
Right.
We're talking about that first nurse, the black lady with the coffee filter on her head, who's watching Reagan.
Yeah, you got a demon in you. did you tell the demon to go away?
Yeah.
Did you say, this is my body, demon, you need to get out of there? You haven't tried that? Why don't you try that first?
Yes. Like
Before
instead
you come in here,
instead of all this
order
like
all these tests.
this drama and all this stuff. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe that's why they didn't give her any lines, right? Because like that nurse, again, we have no name to go on with the little time that she's been on screen. She gives us like a lot, right? Like there's that moment when we close up on her face while she's alone in the room with Reagan, and she's looking over at Reagan acting weird, and she just like the look just tells so much, you know? It's like and it's like, oh my God.
Right.
What's wrong with me? Linda Blair's own mother appears in this movie. And I've already talked about like 2 other people instead of her, right? I'm talking about Ellen Burstyn. I'm talking about this other nurse that we don't even know her name.
By the other nurse, right?
Yes.
I
absolutely.
tell you, if this was my son telling me he had a captain in his head, I would have taken care of this before I went and brought all these people into this.
Oh no, Kynan, we are constructing an A-team behind the scenes. We got Uncle Tito's. We got Jesuit Dean. We got they're all, you know what they are. They're made up entirely of like the uncredited or miscredited folks in this movie, right? Because we found out that John J. Nicola, who that's what it says in the X-ray, that priest carrying the flowers, that's not him, right? Him. Like there was a John J. Nicola who contributed to this movie. He was a technical advisor and he also wrote a book on possession. And for some reason, the X-ray says that that's the priest carrying the flowers, but it's not. We found out thanks to Exorcist Reviews. Everyone go check out their YouTube. But so we got that guy. We're just going to call him John J. Nicola because we don't know his fucking name.
The other John J. Nicola.
The other John J. Nicola, right? Like his name is that guy's name too. And and so we got him. We got Uncle Tito's, and we call him Uncle Tito's because he doesn't have a name, like, but that's the actor's name. And then we also got Jesuit Dean, of course, and now we have this nurse, right? And I think of all of them, if this is the A-team, she would be the leader,
right?
No, actually, no, that wouldn't work because then they would solve the problems too quickly. She's the one who has the answers. Like everyone should be listening to her, but probably it's like Uncle Tito's behind the wheel or something like that. Right.
The nurse is Velma, and Uncle Tito's is Fred.
There we go. Yes.
and the false Father Nicola is Daphne. And then as Jesuit Dean and the real Jesuit Dean, who we see later, that's got to be Shaggy and Scooby.
That's Shaggy and Scooby. There we go. Right. This is Unsolved Mysteries. Yeah. And if they just listen to this nurse, then the mysteries would be solved way, way, way sooner. We're not comparing this nurse to. We're comparing her to the old Velma, not the new one that just came out.
Oh, well, I haven't seen that one, so I can't.
Oh, that one's getting a lot of criticism right now. Yes. Apparently, it's not representing anybody very well.
Well, there's no Scooby-Doo in it, so it's like doing a movie with only one Jesuit Dean.
Wait, hang on. There's no Scooby-Doo?
That is correct, Lester.
What?
I'm not even a Scooby-Doo fan. I don't like Scooby-Doo, but when I heard that they were doing a Scooby-Doo reboot with no Scooby-Doo, I'm like, well, there's not even any reason for me to go and watch that.
What is it called? No, it's called Velma.
It's called Velma,
right? Yeah. Okay. What?
And there's no Scooby-Doo, so it's just them solving mysteries, I guess, but without Scooby-Doo.
And everybody hates it. Like everybody, like from every single side, like everybody hates this this new iteration. And I haven't seen it yet, so I can't speak for it. But when we're comparing our favorite nurse to Velma, we're comparing her to the old Velma,
right? The one that gets neglected, and she's in the back of the mystery machine, and no one likes her because she has glasses. but
she has all the answers, right?
Every single time, right?
Yes, yeah. Right. Whew. Okay. We fell into a Scooby trap there.
Would you do it for a Scooby trap?
You know what he did, Raggy? Okay. Jesus. Yeah, but like I was saying, folks, like Linda Blair's own mother appears in this movie, right? And we're talking about this nurse, we're talking about the other nurse, we're talking about Ellen Burstyn, right? And that's even in my notes too. Like Kynan, like I'm going to read to you the notes that I have when Eleanor Blair shows up. Right now on the air, this is a peek behind the curtain. This is a reading. This is a reading from the show notes of Lester. Right. So I have in just a line. I have Eleanor Blair. Linda Blair's mom. Makeup in Up Your Alley. Stage mom stereotype, yes/no. Why no info? Very sus. Talk about Ellen Burstyn. Talk about other nurse.
Well, you're very brave. You're very brave for letting them in to see what you write.
Yeah, and even Google. Like, I go onto Google to look for Eleanor Blair, and it says, "Do you mean Ellen Burstyn?" Well, no, Google.
Again, you're very brave. I don't make notes, so they can't. If I'm ever sued, I can't produce any documents. I'm like, everything on the show is what I have. I literally have nothing. There are no notes. So.
I am no one.
If you want any discovery, you got to go through Lester, not me.
There we go. Yeah. The Exorcist Minute at gmail.com. I forgot our own email address just a second. The Exorcist Minute at gmail.com, folks. Yeah.
Lester.Clark at exorcist.com.
Yes. Captain.Howdy.Velma at shaggy.com. Yeah. So, okay. So our nurse is here to tell us that Chris McNeil is on the phone and it's urgent. The docs have time. They look at each other. It's like, do you have time right now? And so yeah. So they head to the McNeil residence. And we cut from there to inside the McNeil house. Someone is at the door and Sharon is rushing to answer it. Somewhere we hear the sound of Reagan screaming. Sharon answers the door. It's Dr. Klein and Dr. Tanny. Sharon reports that things have gotten worse, more spasms. Yes, but they've gotten more violent. I love the camera work here. Again, it's as if we are perhaps another observer, as if maybe we are also like running to the door with Sharon, but then we stopped at the landing and let her just kind of like continue on. Right. And yeah, that is where we must also stop. Kynan, is there anything else we missed here?
No, we'll come back to this because this will lead into our next minute. So we'll deal with that next time.
Next time. Okay. Kynan, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of Scooby-Doo compels you. Right. Well, no, because like his W's would be regular W's, right? Right.
Well, I don't know why the S's are raggies. I don't know.
Right. Raggy. Yeah, no, he's...
Like Zoink Scoob, we've got a big mystery up at the McNeil house.
Why you do this to me, Raggy? Your mother rocks and roll.
Well, that's how we clean up this movie. We get a PG rating by making all the swears in Scooby-Doo's voice. Very good.